economic populism. We are talking about righteous anger and rage against the Wall Street bandits, leeches, parasites, ticks, and lampreys, and above all, how they have perverted the U.S. federal government through a process of systematic corruption and graft, because this is a very ugly system of graft. Geithner is prima facie implicated in a felony violation of the U.S. securities laws, Securities Act of 1933, by a conspiracy with the Ed Liddy and other leaders of AIG, or various underlings, to falsify an SEC filing back in December, I believe, in particular, of 2008. Now, all of that information came out 3 or 4 months later. It's always been my contention that the AIG scandal is the microcosm of the Depression. It's a hedge fund. There shouldn't be hedge funds. They should be regulated. Once they're regulated, they're no longer hedge funds. Issuing derivatives, $3 trillion. Some of those derivatives should be banned outright. There should be, as one senator once said, a bright line prohibition against credit default swaps, at least. You could actually outlaw all derivatives, but I think politically more feasible and perhaps administratively easier to handle is the Tobin tax, the 1% tax on all financial transactions, treating financial transactions something like every other transaction where you pay a sales tax. On financial transactions so far, there's zero sales tax. So we're not talking about singling out anything or punishing anything. As a matter of fact, if it's a 1% Tobin tax, that would be less than the prevalent sales tax in most states. A more radical proposal would be to say, let's just extend the existing sales tax in various states to include securities, derivatives, stocks, bonds, and so forth, all kinds of financial transactions. That would get you up to 10 or 11% in California, 6% in Maryland, and so on down the line. We're not even going quite that far, although maybe that's the answer. Probably a 1% Tobin tax would do it at the present time. But there's no question of punitive taxation. Why should the securities be treated in a class by themselves? It's like the aristocrats of the French Ancien Regime, the old regime, pre-1789, who essentially said, we have the right not to be taxed. So we have the finance oligarchs of Wall Street who say, we're like the French aristocrats before the French Revolution. We're immune, exempt from taxation, because these bums, of course, Geithner doesn't pay his own personal income tax. Most of these companies pay zero or piddling corporate income tax. The only way to get them is a Tobin tax. So whether it's win, lose, or a wash, you're paying a tax on the turnover. You're buying and selling. You're flash trading, program trading, and high-frequency trading. So this entire complex, the need for a special prosecutor to go into this is central. The House of Representatives, the relevant committee, has now subpoenaed the records of the New York Fed. So we're going to get the audit of the Fed starting right where it belongs. We want to audit the New York Fed. That is the centerpiece. That's the flagship. That's the one, by the way, which is a member of the Bank for International Settlements, not the entire system, just the New York one. The New York Fed, of course, always represented on the Federal Open Market Committee, where the other ones rotate. The Fed from New York is always there. So this is a great place to start. I think we're going to get the audit of the Fed through subpoenas and criminal indictments in this AIG scandal. We're watching Eric Holder. Eric Holder has a record as a banker's boy so far. He's been a servant of Mark Rich, getting him a pardon from Clinton, and similar nefarious acts of malfeasance. So what will Eric Holder do? Will he vigorously prosecute this, or will he let Geithner and the other criminals at the New York Fed, all agents of Wall Street, of course, will he let them off? That's what we're going to be looking for. So this is the focus that we would suggest for those Tea Party enthusiasts meeting in Nashville. Now, naturally, Dick Armey is going to tell you that government is always bad. Anything government does is always bad, and anything Wall Street does is always good. But that's going to be a hard sell when the starting point for the Tea Party, of course, is the rage about the bailout, not the stimulus, not the supplemental, but the bailout, the troubled asset relief program, $700 billion gift to Wall Street. Now, we've also had, in this past week, as part of the atmospherics, along with this wave of bonuses coming, along with this AIG Geithner scandal, which is so large, looming like a huge Watergate over the entire Obama administration, because the number of Wall Street puppets and Wall Street stooges in that administration is immense. It's one of the highest percentages we've ever seen. How about Mary Shapiro over there at the Securities and Exchange Commission? What has she been up to? Is she not guilty of malfeasance and nonfeasance on this stuff? How come the Securities and Exchange Commission is so slow with this? It's more than a year since this happened, and it's about 8 or 9 months since everybody found out where this money had eventually gone. The list that I just went through, the 67 or 69 billion dollars. So a lot of politics here. The other thing is the federally mandated commission on the economic crisis. It's sort of the equivalent of the Kane-Hamilton Commission on 9/11. This is the Angelides Commission. This is a former Attorney General of California, I believe. They started this week with their first public hearings, and they had a quartet of bankers. They had Blankfein of Goldman Sachs, who took most of the flack. That's his function. They had Diamond of J.P. Morgan Chase, who got to look more statesmanlike. They had the new guy, Moynihan, from Bank of America, who has replaced Kelly. And we had Mack showing up for the first time from Morgan Stanley. I'm wondering, where is Pandit the Bandit of Citibank? How come Pandit the Bandit got off? And how come nobody called attention to that? And, indeed, where is Wells Fargo, which is now quite comparable in size to some of these other ones, bigger than some of them, and that TARP back office? I'd like to see Bank of New York Mellon hauled in, because if you want to know the secrets of the TARP, of the bailout, those are contained in the offices of Bank of New York Mellon, because they function as the administrative center, the accounting office, and so forth, the back office in Wall Street parlance of the TARP, of the bailout. So all of this is going on. It's a perfect storm of rage against Wall Street. And the question now is, who's going to lay a glove on them? And you've got to have good demands. We see Arianna Huffington pushing this absurd petty bourgeois illusion that it's going to be a political action, the form of class struggle recommended by the rich Greek heiress Arianna Huffington, former Republican, former friend of Newt Gingrich, former impeacher of Clinton, who's jumped on the Obama bandwagon. Arianna Huffington now says that the adequate form of class struggle for our time is to take your bank account out of Citibank or J.P. Morgan and put it in some local bank or credit union. How radical. Wall Street trembles. This is, and then you're supposed to think that if you've done that, you've actually done something political. That's absolutely absurd. And let me say, as a general guidance, any attempt to deal with this crisis on a state-by-state level is simply too little, too late, and risks functioning as a diversion and dispersal of energies that need to be concentrated in one place, and that is the struggle against Wall Street domination of the government. Wall Street, of course, with a large extension, including places like North Carolina and San Francisco. But the tentacles of the Wall Street banking community are everywhere. So time for a march on Wall Street, time for a march on Goldman Sachs, and we'll be back in a minute